everybody, greetings from London. I'm really sorry I can't be with you today in Miami. However, I send you a few thoughts on the oil market today. Oil prices have staged a remarkable recovery, having dipped to $27 per barrel in early January this year. Since then, we've recovered to about $45 per barrel and we are still going strongly. A few reasons as to why we are here today. Firstly, the significant cutback in capital expenditure by oil companies across the last 2 years has meant that supplies are starting to fall everywhere in the world. In particular, Latin America stands out. Production is falling very sharply in Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, and Venezuela. Venezuela in particular faces a lot of problems currently. We all know it's highly indebted to China, but currently it also faces a lot of power problems. The water level at the Guri Dam, which provides 50% of hydroelectricity to the country, has fallen to record low levels. As a result of that, we are getting power cuts everywhere in the country, rolling blackouts, and the workers have only been asked to work for 2 days a week in order to save power. You've seen oil production decline very sharply, potentially by 300,000 barrels per day year on year, and we don't really expect any sharp rebound even if the water conditions recover, mainly because as a result of their debt problems, they are unable to pay the service companies such as Schlumberger and Halliburton, who have now scaled back their operations. So Venezuela is definitely one of the countries to watch out for. Similarly, you are getting a lot of production declines in Asia, which is not usually considered a place where you would look at for production growth, because it's China and India and they're big importers of crude oil, but China produces as much crude oil as Canada does, and at 4.2 million barrels per day, Chinese crude oil declines are coming in at around 5 to 7%, which is quite significant. Overall in Asia, we've seen production drop by 200 to 250,000 barrels per day, and Latin American declines have averaged about 500,000 barrels per day. So between those two regions, supplies already are down by 750,000 barrels per day. The other areas which I would say you should definitely keep an eye out for are Nigeria and Angola. Militant attacks on Nigerian infrastructure is on the rise, and Angola is facing a huge cash crunch at the moment, which is then leading to supply cutbacks as a result of a lack of investment. Offsetting some of these supplies, however, are growing supplies in Iran, Iraq, and Russia. Russian production has been shielded from a lot of the expenditure cutbacks because of the ruble declining very, very sharply, and that's why they are still able to grow production. Iran, you've seen sanctions being lifted, and that's why they are really pushing hard to regain their market share. Iranian exports are up by 1 million barrels per day so far this year. However, they are also running down a lot of crude that has been held in storage. Finally, on Iraq, they've been able to maintain production, not grow it very much. We do expect Iraqi production to start declining towards the end of the year, again because of the same story, capital expenditure has been cut back. Overall, the supply situation does look very, very tight. We are in the process of rebalancing. We are starting to draw down inventories. As the year accelerates and we head into next year, supply declines, which are averaging about 700,000 barrels per day so far this year amongst non-OPEC countries, will become closer to 1 million barrels per day next year. And this is despite demand growth not being particularly strong. It's growing okay. It's growing at about 1 million barrels per day. China is doing fine. India is very, very good. The US has been slowing a little bit. So a bit of a mixed bag. The real story, that's why, is the supply side, which is what you have to follow very closely. And we do expect prices to recover into the 60s by year end and potentially rise into the $70 mark by middle of next year. The potential for a price spike into the 90s is still very much on the cards because of the kind of supply losses that we are starting to face, but that is unlikely to happen till 2018 on our balances. Thank you everybody for your time.